Welcome to my channel, Veterans Legacy. Today, we're about to witness a story that will remind you what true experience, heart, and humility mean. It's not just about shooting targets or medals, it's about passing on something deeper. A story of pride, failure, redemption, and the kind of wisdom that can't be taught in manuals, only lived. The sun was barely up over the Nevada desert, and a dry wind rolled across the Marine Corps training range. The horizon shimmered under the heat, the sand and dust mixing with the faint scent of gunpowder. It was day 4 of sniper qualification week, and the young Marines were struggling. Targets sat 1,000 yards out, white silhouettes against a brown wasteland. The team's best shots, men who could hit a soda can at 300 yards, were now missing target after target. Lieutenant Parker, the instructor, stood with his hands on his hips, frustration etched into every line of his face. "You boys are firing like it's Sunday paintball," he barked. "You're Marines, not amateurs." The shots echoed one after another, cracks that died into silence. Not one steel plate rang out. Not one. Corporal Hayes, the top marksman in the group, slammed his rifle bolt open. "Sir, the wind's shifting too much. We can't read it right." Parker glared. "Don't blame the wind. The wind doesn't care who you are." They tried again. Same results. Miss after miss. Each echo of the rifle sounded more hopeless than the last. From the side, a jeep rolled up, dust cloud trailing behind. Out stepped an old man, wearing a faded ball cap with the words, USMC Scout Sniper, embroidered in gold thread. His boots were worn, his jeans covered in desert dust, and his movements, slow but sure. He carried nothing but a thermos of coffee and an old, weather-beaten spotting scope slung over his shoulder. Lieutenant Parker noticed him first and saluted. "Morning, sir." The old man nodded, squinting under the sun. "Morning, Lieutenant. I heard your boys are having some trouble with their reach." The young Marines turned to look. They all knew who he was, Gunnery Sergeant Billy Cross, a legend. Vietnam, Beirut, Iraq. His name was still whispered at Camp Lejeune like a ghost story told with respect. They said he could hit a moving target over a mile away, without a rangefinder. Parker cleared his throat. "They're missing by a few inches at 900 and 1,000 yards. We can't seem to read the mirage right. You here to observe, Gunny?" Billy gave a faint smile. "Observe? Nah, I'm here to teach." The Marines gathered around as Billy set his old spotting scope on the stand. His hands trembled a bit, not from weakness, but age, yet his eyes were sharp as ever. He turned to Corporal Hayes. "You think you're losing to the wind, son?" Hayes hesitated. "Yes, sir. The crosswind keeps shifting. Can't get a steady read." Billy knelt down, grabbed a pinch of sand, and let it fall. The grains twisted and danced in the air before drifting right. "That wind's been steady for the last 10 minutes, he said softly. "You're looking at the mirage too close. You're reading lies." He pointed to the distance. "Look halfway between you and the target. See the shimmer? That's your truth. The wind at the target doesn't matter if you can't control what's halfway there." The young Marines watched closely. Every word he spoke felt like a secret being passed down. "Now," Billy said, "who's your best shot?" Corporal Hayes raised his hand again. "Good. Let's see if your eyes are sharper than your pride." They reset the target. Hayes lay prone, rifle ready. Billy lay down beside him, his cheek resting against the dusty ground, looking through the spotting scope. "Breath steady," Billy whispered. "Don't fight the trigger, love it. Let the shot surprise you." Hayes exhaled slowly, finger tightening. The rifle cracked, a clean, sharp sound. Billy smiled. "Hi, right. You pulled it, didn't you?" Hayes frowned. "Yeah, felt it the second I did." Billy chuckled. "Good. You're honest. That's the first step to being deadly." They adjusted. Another shot. Then another. Each closer. Until finally, the steel plate rang out loud across the desert, clang. The team erupted in cheers. Billy didn't smile this time. He just looked through the scope and said, "Don't celebrate one shot. That one might have been luck. You prove it with the next 10. For the next hour, the young Marines listened like children around a campfire. Billy didn't talk about ballistics or equations, he talked about feeling. "You don't just shoot with your hands," he said. "You shoot with your heart. You let the world slow down until there's nothing left but you, the wind, and the target. If you think too hard, you lose the moment. Trust the stillness. He taught them tricks they'd never heard from any manual: how to listen for the wind's whistle between their ears, how to sense the weight of air by how the sand moves near their elbows. Each man took a turn, and each improved, little by little. The sun sank lower, painting the desert gold. As the final shot of the day rang out, a perfect hit at 1,000 yards, the entire group went silent. They didn't cheer this time. They just looked at the old man, realizing they were in the presence of something rare, something sacred. Billy stood slowly, brushing off his jeans. "You boys did good," he said. "Remember, the rifle's just a tool. The real weapon is the calm behind your heartbeat." Later, at the campfire that night, the Marines sat around eating rations and laughing softly. Billy sat a few feet away, staring at the stars. Corporal Hayes approached him with 2 cups of coffee. "Sir, thanks. We thought we were doing everything right. Guess we weren't." Billy took the cup, nodded. "You were doing fine. You just forgot one thing. Sometimes it ain't about hitting the target. It's about earning the shot." Hayes frowned. "What do you mean?" Billy looked out into the desert. "Every shot I ever took, I remember what came after. The silence, the faces, the lives it changed. You start to realize that a bullet's not just lead. It's a promise. So you better know what kind you're keeping." Hayes didn't know what to say. The old Marine's words hit deeper than the sound of any rifle. As the fire crackled, Parker walked over. "Gunny, I didn't think you'd still come out here. Word was you weren't feeling too great." Billy chuckled. "Doctors can wait. The Corps can't." The men laughed, but Billy's smile faded as he looked into the flames. "You know," he said quietly, "I lost more brothers than I can count. Every time I close my eyes, I still see 'em. But days like this, watching these kids learn, that's the kind of thing that keeps me breathing." A hush fell over the group. The night wind swept across the sand, carrying the faint echo of the day's shots. The next morning, the Marines gathered early. Billy wasn't there. His cot was empty, the coffee thermos still sitting on the table beside it. Lieutenant Parker found a folded note and a single spent bullet casing on the cot. The note read, "Greater than, the wind always tells the truth if you're quiet enough to listen. Keep teaching them to listen. Gunnery Cross." Parker closed his eyes. He knew. Billy had passed quietly in his sleep. No one said a word. The desert was completely still, like it was saluting him. That afternoon, the Marines lined up in formation. Each of them held one of Billy's old sniper bullets, polished to a shine. Lieutenant Parker spoke softly, his voice steady but trembling. "Gunnery Sergeant William Cross, Marine, mentor, brother. You showed us that skill means nothing without heart. You taught us to listen, to the wind, to our instincts, to our ghosts. And for that, we'll carry your legacy." Then, one by one, the Marines stepped up to the firing line. Each took a single shot toward the horizon, not at targets, but into the distance, a salute to the man who'd taught them that a bullet isn't about destruction, it's about understanding. The echoes rolled across the desert like thunder fading into memory. Years later, Corporal Hayes, now Sergeant Hayes, returned to that same range as an instructor. He wore a new patch on his uniform, Veteran's Legacy. The recruits under him, young, eager, and nervous, missed every long-distance shot on their first day. Hayes smiled, remembering another group that once stood there, lost and frustrated. He set down his rifle and knelt beside them. "All right," he said, "let me tell you a story about a man named Gunnery Sergeant Billy Cross. He used to say the wind always tells the truth, if you're quiet enough to listen." The recruits leaned in, and the desert wind began to whisper again. Soft cinematic music fades in, piano and strings. Narrator gentle, emotional tone. That's the legacy of a true Marine, not in the medals, not in the records, but in the lessons that live on through those who follow. Gunnery Sergeant Billy Cross may be gone, but every time a young Marine steadies his rifle and listens for the wind, he's right there, watching, guiding, proud. Because the mark of a great man isn't the distance of his shot, it's the reach of his influence. Final shot. Slow motion montage. Marines training at sunrise, a lone bullet casing glinting in the sand, the desert wind carrying echoes of laughter and rifle cracks. Narrator, voice breaking slightly. Thank you for watching Veterans Legacy. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of someone you respect, someone who taught you something you'll never forget, honor them today. Like, comment, and subscribe, not just to support this channel, but to keep the legacy of our veterans alive. Because stories like these, they deserve to be remembered. Music swells, fades out with the sound of the wind.